Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Health Movement Podcast. I'm Derek. I am a certified personal trainer, a two-sport collegiate athlete, and a teacher of over 20 years, and this is our 15th episode. With me, as always, is Tim.
I'm a certified athletic trainer, national registered EMT, and a wellness coach.
And we thought we'd just come in and kind of reflect on our first 15 or 14 episodes, as this is number 15, and just kind of maybe how our views on certain things have changed or evolved over time. Tim, is there anything specifically that popped out that you've learned or that somebody has said?
I think, I think it's a good idea to do a little State of the Union here because it's been, 15 episodes. We're about 3.5 months, just over 3 months into doing this little podcast thing here. And for me, I don't know about changed, but I think it's been good. I think for me, it's changed more so since we've started having the guests on. For you and I, like, we kind of know what our general philosophy is. Like, we kind of know who each other are. But once we've started to have some of the guests in to give us a little bit of perspective or give us a little bit more of depth to what we're talking about, I think it's been good because we've had people that have some like-minded philosophies to us, but at the same time, it's given us a little bit more of, like I said, a little bit more depth to what we're talking about. Having Jess and Emily on was like a big point for us because they have a lot of similar philosophies, but also, work with different populations or different clients that we are. Jess lives in a completely different country. You know what I mean? I think that was a good background or a good insight to, we know what our issues are here in the States, but it's, they fight similar things in other countries or the different challenges that they have out there too. Or even someone like Jeff working with the military population, I think was a good, a good background there. Or even getting Craig on for the cool mitt stuff. I think it was good to kind of, be able to dive into these different areas of the stuff that we were talking about, or the the foundational things that we talk about of recovery or hydration, nutrition, those different, even having
Sam on, yeah.
Sam on, yeah, it was, in the population that she works with, like I've learned a lot personally in the conversations that we've had. So, I think it's good for the people who've been listening to kind of get those different insights as well. I don't know how you feel about all that.
Yeah, no, the same way. And I think it's the perspective, like you said. I have never worked with pregnant women before, or like immediately postpartum. So getting the perspective from Sam, who also, competes on a fitness level or fitness competitor, to see that perspective as opposed to like someone like Craig, who I know he didn't create the cool mitt technology himself, but working with doctors from Stanford. And that was really, once I made the connection, like, oh, I've seen this on Rogan before, and Dr. Huberman talking about it, and then to actually use it and experience that it really works. Like it was pretty flattering, honestly, that these individuals wanted to come on and talk to us. Because we are relatively new. It's only been a few months that we've been doing this, but it was cool to see. And I did like how I think everybody backed you on your water stance, how important that is. And I agree with you, it is, but it's kind of validating too, from a sense, to see these people whose careers are made in this space, kind of echoing a lot of what we've been saying. Did you bring that cool mitt to Holy Cross?
I haven't had a chance. I've been trying to link up with their strength and conditioning coach, but now with the basketball season getting in full swing, it's kind of been a little difficult trying to get it there. So
it'd be definitely cool to see what those guys think about it. I tried getting our AD from the high school, and she thought it was cool, but she, trying to get it in there for her to test out and stuff. Schedules are kind of tough, but it would be fun to see that in like a team sport environment, as opposed to what we can do with it just ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. Or even, even linking somebody like Jeff or Nick in with that with the military population too, and
Oh
see if
yeah,
there would be a what kind of results they could get there too could be
that
interesting
that
too.
was the reasoning
The
for
whole,
it at the beginning. That's
yeah,
its core
exactly. Yeah,
function. I don't know. What were you gonna say
yeah.
before I
No.
interrupted you?
Um, no, I think it's just been, the spaces that they work with, the different populations that they work with as professionals is, we've gotten a pretty diverse background. I think even today the day that Emily's running the marathon. Is that today or is that
It's
tomorrow? I
either
think
today or tomorrow. Oh, and her birthday was, I think, I forget if it was the first. It was right around the time when they're running. Yeah, it might actually be today. We'll have to send her some well wishes, but that's cool. Matt's girlfriend Amanda just ran the New York Marathon. Not the New York Marathon. Sorry, that's where Emily's run the DC Marathon.
Oh, right.
Last weekend or the weekend before, I forget. So I sent her over the episode, which was probably a couple weeks too late. But just seeing different people doing that, which it's crazy to me. Matt, that if she can do 10 pull-ups, he'll do a marathon with her. So he's really hoping she doesn't figure that part out. But it's I don't know. Would you ever run one? Would you ever do that?
I need to run a 5K first. I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
we'll, uh, we'll see. I've gotten, since we did that episode where you were talking about, running every day for the month, I've probably gotten 5 miles in over the course of the last 6 weeks. So
Yeah.
it's not a ton, but personally, I've been, I've kind of been getting back in the gym myself. It's been, with my new career path, my new job, it was kind of difficult. So making sure I'm carving out the time for myself, especially the last couple of weeks. It's been tough because, as you know, we had a family vacation. It's been kind of been grinding for work. So, that's the kind of stuff too. Is using this as a motivation for myself to keep going to make sure that I'm trying to stay healthy. I'm trying to keep it on track and not go too far off the rails. And even on vacation, like just trying to. It's tough. I mean, it's not like
It's
we were
tough. It's tough
well,
down there,
and
especially.
it's not like it, but it's also not like we were inactive the whole time. I averaged probably 19 to 20,000 steps a day while we are on
Yeah.
vacation. So, um, and the other piece to that is I was trying to stay motivated when I got down there. I was trying to look unfortunately the resort we stayed on didn't have a fitness center, so I was waking up in the morning trying to do something, and it was and I knew I was going to be walking probably 7 or 8 miles a day anyways. So I wasn't super concerned about it, but just trying to stay on path with what I've been doing with my routine.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to do stuff that I don't necessarily need um a fitness center or weights or anything to do. I've got a pretty decent routine where I can get a pretty hardcore workout in just doing body weight stuff. So
That's all you
I think
need. That's
yeah,
all you need.
yeah, and that's where it's it's just trying to keep up with what I'm trying to do and the trying to keep or get my fitness level to where I want it to be. And it's in not I've always been a bigger dude, like me. I'm kind of I don't want to say heavy set, but I've always been a bigger, thicker guy. So focusing on my um with like the things we talked about with Sam, like not focusing so much on a scale, but the mirror test, right? Or
Yeah. And how you
the
feel too. Like even
measurements,
when
yeah, how I feel. I think for me, it's like I always orthopedically or physically feel better when I'm more active, more, have a lot more variance in movement and all that kind of stuff. So those are
yeah.
things that, you got to practice what you preach, and it's hard sometimes, and I think that's what
Oh,
we've said to people.
absolutely.
And, I think it sucks sometimes. I gotta do it when I don't want to do it. And it's like,
That's the tough thing though. Once you get out of it's so easy to get out of that habit and then to get back into it so much harder than if you could just suck it up that day that you really don't want to do it. Get your ceiling or your floor in there and go on from there.
And even when I am in the routine and I am in the habit, there are still days in there that I don't want to do it,
Oh, yeah,
and
100%.
it's and it's finding that, and especially now where we're in New England, it's where we got daylight savings time tonight, and we're gonna be head set on into the seasonal depression here. Like it's that kind of thing where it's gonna
If
be
it gets
dark at
cold
4.
ever.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
be
the
dark at
4 PM
4 p.m.
darkness,
And it's
that's
you go to
brutal.
work and it's gonna be dark, and I'm gonna get home and it's gonna be dark, and that's where it's like, this is where the work needs to be put in. So when it's nice out, it feels easier too. So
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of stuff for me where it's and that's the other side to that is seasonal depression is a thing. People have trouble with holidays, right? Like, there's a lot of holidays are a good time for a lot of people, but for some people they're harder. They don't have great situations, or maybe things have changed from last year to this year, or over time, like their
Yeah.
family traditions change. And the best way to fight a lot of that stuff that we talked about is physical activity is one of the biggest fighters, or biggest you know positive things to fight um mental health issues or depression or anxiety or any of that kind of stuff. And some of the stuff that you were talking about is like people that exercise tend to be more motivated, tend to be able to kind of attack their day a little bit better. And it's, once you get in that routine, it personally for me, it makes it easier for me to dial in, to focus on the things I need to focus on. And it is,
Crazy. It's crazy the research that has been done. It's not an opinion at this point in time. It's scientific fact that if you are healthier, you do you exercise more, you eat cleaner, your brain works better, you're more motivated, you're more successful. There was a stat I saw, I believe it was from the Harvard Business Review, about people who exercise consistently, 3, 4, 5 days a week, earn on average an extra 25,000 per year. It obviously depends where you live in your profession, but that was the average. And it comes back to those people that are willing to put in that consistent work on themselves are also more likely to consistently put that work in the rest of their lives, in the different areas of their lives. So I thought that there's a lot of interesting things in terms of even productivity and absenteeism, like actually showing up to work and not getting sick. There are so many factors that add
well,
into it.
and not just absenteeism, but presenteeism, right?
Yeah,
Being,
that's true.
people that are present, that, can still go in and check out. It's, that's something that is almost just as big of an issue as absenteeism. And that's where,
Yeah.
it really is. It helps you to stay more cognitively into it. And again, like, some of that is your hydration, some of that's your sleep, some of that's your nutrition. It's not just physical activity. It's all of those things play a factor. And it's funny because by no means is this a plug or anything, but I told you I recently got the Whoop band to kind of
Yeah.
track my sleep and do all that kind of stuff, and it gives you the recovery score for every day. And it's like, it's funny that the days that I don't feel my best, it picks up on that. And it's like, it tells you when you're in. I wake up early for work, and it's tough sometimes to actually get in bed when I need to. And sometimes this thing tells me I need to go to bed and get like 9.5 hours of sleep, which just really isn't
Yeah.
it's not
It's
something
not
that
possible
I
sometimes.
sometimes I can't even, I have a hard time staying with sleep that long, even when
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sleeping in. Like, it was funny when we were on the trip last week, we didn't wake up super early every day. I woke up every day at 4:45, no matter what.
Oh,
And it was like, that's just what
awesome.
my internal clock is. Some days
Yeah.
I did go back to sleep. Some days I couldn't fall back asleep. And it's
Yeah.
like, and, it's just my internal clock has got me going at that point. And now I hit 9 o'clock and I'm barely able to stay awake. You know what I mean? And I feel that. And then
And that's
it,
because you're old. You're
well,
getting old, buddy.
but at the same time, I'm in a routine, like
Yeah,
there
no,
was
I
really
know.
no,
I know your body's
it,
used to it.
well, it's also different. Like, my career path has changed so much in the last 6 months, where it's, as an athletic trainer, your schedule is so all over the place and it's so erratic that there were days I wasn't going in until 2 p.m. and then I was getting out at 11, and then the next day I'd have
I
to be
know.
in at 9 o'clock, and then I would get out at 7, and your schedule is just so all over the place. Now my routine is so set in stone, and my days are so routine. You're not routine. And this is where, like,
And
talking with Jess, right? Where she was, I said routine, and she was like, no,
it's
you're
a
ritual,
ritual.
right? And that
Yeah.
was like, that was one thing that really resonated with me, where it's like, because routine does sound like it's, forced a little bit, right? Or
Yeah, or just
not,
monotonous or the same sort of repetitive thing that you don't really appreciate, wwhereas ritual, like she said, is an enjoyment. It's
yeah,
something fun.
routine kind of sounds complacent, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's where, and that's, again, I think a lot of it's fighting complacency, not just in your wellness and your fitness, but in your career or in your home life or in all the, some days it's hard to fight that complacency, and sometimes it's okay to sit on the couch for a day. And like, those are things that I think that you need, but to also moderate those, and make sure that you know what I mean? You fight that stuff off. And, whether it's, doing stuff. For me, it's like, I got a laundry list of things, and Shane will tell you this, my wife will tell you this, like, there's a laundry list of stuff I got to do around my house, and home improvement projects and all that kind of stuff, and trying to find time for that kind of stuff. It's just making sure
That
that,
list never goes away.
yeah,
There's always stuff, no matter how hard you work. So, yeah,
it's more
it's
about
finding the time to get that. And
how you organize it, right? And I think
yeah,
that's an issue that I fight, is organizational skills and things that I need to prioritize. And it's just trying to make sure that, I take care of the things I need to take care of, and take care of the relationships I need to take care of. And, um,
I did want to talk to you about relationships because I feel like you haven't been putting as much effort into this one here. And I'm feeling it. So you put a little more effort in this way.
softball
I,
season's over, it's,
yeah,
we don't
that's
see
right.
each other as much.
That's right. That's right. I did want to tell you, you had mentioned that 30-day challenge I had done, and I wanted to talk to you about it a little bit. I did notice a difference. There were some stats I was looking at. I have an Apple Watch, and it tracks certain metrics, and my resting heart rate dropped like 15 beats um, per minute over the course of the 30 days. And I don't know if that was it. There were a combination. I was running more. I was eating no added sugar, and doing yoga, which is miserable, by the way. I don't mean it's a bad thing, but trying to get into certain positions and hold them. Like I'd much rather do a David Goggins style workout where you're killing yourself than try to hold a pose for 30
But
seconds.
think of the values of yoga, right? Yoga
Oh, I
is,
need it. I need it.
there's some flexibility, there's some meditative mindfulness qualities to it. There's a big breathing component to it,
Yep,
right? Those are
100%.
all things that, you know, can be transferred over into your everyday life. I think, and this is one that I've struggled with, and I don't think I ever really realized. I know I'm an asthmatic. I've had asthma my whole life. Breathing has been something that I've always kind of struggled with. And how I breathe, I've become much more mindful of how I breathe, the muscles I'm trying to use, diaphragmatic breathing, box breathing or tactical breathing. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever,
Yep.
used that, four in, four hold, four out, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like, and
Just
I've
straight
really,
nose breathing,
yeah,
as opposed to mouth breathing
the
is
tidal volume that you get through your nose versus through your mouth is significant. I don't know the exact statistic, but I know it's like 30. It's like over 30% more tidal volume in through your nose than you do your mouth, right? And
yeah.
um, I'm a big mouth breather, and it's been something that I've struggled. And again, I think some of that is, I get into the, I've always, like I said, I've always kind of had a problem with breathing, and asthmatic, being an asthmatic, it's kind of gotten worse. Um, since I've really started focusing on it, I've really noticed the difference in both my workouts and how I feel both during and after my workouts
Yeah.
and
Oh, it
it's
makes a
hard,
huge
especially when you get your heart rate up. I'm in a I'm in more of a demand when I'm exercising, and it's hard for me to really change that pattern. And that's something that I've really been trying to work on, especially my cardio workouts. I've tried to decrease the intensity just a bit, just to be able to focus on it and not. I'm sure I look like a weirdo at the gym too, because I'm like purposely nose breathing and exhaling through my mouth and trying to get into a rhythm. I've really
Yeah.
started to count my respirations per minute. That's another thing that my Whoop does, which I've never really had before, that it picks up on the
I
respiration per
didn't I
minute and
didn't even
stuff
think
like
of
that.
that.
And that's like, those are things that I've just never been super cognizant of while I'm exercising. And I have been exercising more than in the last probably 3 months, 4 months, than I have in the last maybe, 2 or 3 years. But not necessarily. Again, I've gone through waves of, you
Yeah.
get consistent with it, and that's with my previous schedule and stuff. But it's an area where, for me, it's been trying to be more aware of those things, both while I'm exercising, when I'm walking, when I'm through my daily life. Like, and the other piece to that is I've been fighting. I think I told you I've been fighting like a neck issue, right? Like, I've had some neck stiffness and neck tightness, and I've really noticed that some of that might be attributed to my breathing. I'm not using my diaphragm as much. I'm using my upper thoracic muscles more to breathe. And I noticed that when I have a difficult time breathing during my cardio workouts, I get like real stiff in my neck, and I shrug my shoulders, and I get real tight in my upper trap and my neck. And those
Yeah.
are all areas, I'm kind of going down a wormhole here, but at the same time, like, these are all things that personally I notice that I need to change. And it's like trying to chip away at the issues of, I know that these are problems for me, and I know that they're hard. There's not necessarily an easy fix to them, but trying to take care of them. And
You gotta kinda retrain yourself because your body's used to doing something a certain way, and over time, that becomes the habit, so you have to
Mhm.
go through and retrain it.
and a lot of
The
it's I think a
Go
lot of
ahead.
it's neurologic. You know what I mean? It's like your
Yeah.
brain just gets programmed in doing this, and you have to neurologically change, you know, how it's programmed. It's like a supercomputer, right? Your brain
Yeah.
is like a super.
And, of course, as we're talking about it now, I'm focusing so much on how I'm breathing. It's like out of my nose, try to get your posture better. It
Shoulders down,
was weird when
back.
I was
It's
yeah, I was training, when I was training a couple of the youth baseball players, and I check their 40 time, do all that stuff. And you get some of them that hold their breath almost the entire 40. And I'm like, all right, watch this. Like, focus on just breathing. Don't change anything else. Just breathe when you're going. They drop like 2/10 of a second off their 40 time just on breathing. I mean, granted, they're not running like 4.5s to start with and dropping down a ton, but from where they are to where, like, little changes, but breathing is huge. And there are definitely times I would do, like, you're doing some heavier weight or something like that, and you're really focusing on the weight and you forget to breathe. And, if you have a spotter, like, dude, you got to breathe. And then as soon as you exhale, it's so much easier once you get that piece down. But I don't know. One thing I did want to say about the no sugar that I had done, um, cognitively, I felt sharp and I was able to wake up well and all that. And then, of course, Halloween hits and I had finished it and I'd had a little bit of sugar, but I wasn't going crazy. I ate candy like a jerk on Halloween. And of course, like, it's school. So the kids are coming in and they've got candy and they're leaving some on your desk and all that. And the amount of candy I had, it was an embarrassing amount. Trying to wake up Friday morning, it was the hardest wake up that I've had in months,
like you feel
easily.
hungover almost.
Oh, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Like, I could barely open my eyes. I couldn't move, and I had to really, really force myself out of bed. And normally it's just, I have the Alexa set an alarm and it'll play a song, like whatever music I feel like listening. And by the end of the song, I'm always up and dressed and all that. And this time, I think it went through 3 or 4 before I could even get myself out of bed. It was a rough time, but it makes a difference. The stuff you eat, that added sugar kills you. So I just felt it was better. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do that as much as I can. And obviously, like, I can't say no to a bowl of ice cream for the rest of my life. Like that has to be there. But just understanding, like, um, moderation for everything, like we've been saying too. Like, you can't eat like a jerk and expect
Well,
to
there,
not have
but
some
sometimes people don't even know that they're eating that stuff, and I think this is where like checking the nutrition facts and the nutrition label on your food is so key to being
oh
able
yeah,
to, and again, it's hard to avoid all processed foods all the time, right? But
yeah.
making sure that you're limiting the amount of added sugar that you like. It's insane the amount of added sugars and stuff that you don't even think of, right? Like
Oh,
pasta
absolutely.
sauce, like pasta sauce, barbecue sauce, like all the,
Wheat thins even have like 3 grams of added sugar per serving. And
yeah,
yeah, you're right. You don't think about it at all.
yeah. And then the other thing is looking at the serving size, right? So like if you're looking, if you say like what's your average wheat thin serving size, it's probably like ten of the squares, right?
Yeah, I forget what it is, but it's
So if
not a
you're
ton.
eating 20 to 30, you're doubling or tripling that amount too. So it's
Yeah.
really being cognizant of all that stuff too, and it's to be hard sometimes, and this is where like I think Sam Coops put up her she put up a story a couple of weeks ago where it was like when you realize, when you think struggling to go to the gym every day or exercise every day is the hard part. When wait until you realize that the nutrition, like being
Oh,
hungry throughout the whole day, like the nutrition is brutal sometimes, you know what I mean? And it's
yeah.
like it's I think those kind of things there's levels to that fitness journey, to that wellness journey, and you kind of unlock things as you go. And for me, I think that's the biggest thing. When I am working out consistently, I feel like I am hungry all of the time. And it's hard to
Yeah.
like satiate that hunger, and finding foods that satiate that hunger are big for me. Like sweet potatoes are something that really kind of satisfy that for me.
I was going to say
Um,
potatoes are the most satiating food there is, which
yeah,
is awesome.
yeah.
Um,
And but it's, and then trying to cut out like, the garbage stuff like pizza
oh,
or making things like, having a taco night. There's a good and a bad way to do that, right? And it's making sure that you're dialing that stuff in and you're doing it correctly and you're able to. I think it was Jess that said, the nutrition side of thing. Like I think people think that it's got to be boring or it's got to be
yeah,
bland.
that was,
Like
yeah.
that's you can do it correctly and still have incredible food and still make incredible meals and make it so it's appetizing and fulfill that need too. So that's, and it's really just trying to get into a habit and trying to make that a normal thing.
Yeah, and it was like thinking back, like I love Reese's peanut butter cups and like Milk Duds and all those are good. But that next morning, like now when I see it, I'm associating that way I felt, afterwards, and it's like it's not as appealing. And then after the 30 days was up, it was somebody's birthday at school, and the amount of pastries that were in the teacher's room. And I walked in and it wasn't appealing to me anymore. Like it was, I mean, candy definitely was that didn't go away, but there were certain things that I would eat before. And it's like, you get the munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts and you're like, oh, I'll just have a couple, and a couple turns into 15. And then all of a sudden you've had 4 donuts and you don't even realize it. So that part is definitely the hardest part in terms of consistency throughout a
Yeah.
day. But you're right. You got to find the foods that work for you. I started like cheese and crackers, and just the cheese fills me up. And as long as you know what you're getting, you portion it out. It was filling me up. Have an apple, have some blueberries, have some fruit. I was able to find some filling stuff, so I wasn't as hungry as I was when I was just eating the processed stuff, because that your body burns that so quickly.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've been following like the Dr. Mark Hyman stuff recently on the on Instagram and stuff like that, and they put a lot of
Yeah,
stuff up about the dyes, the food dyes, and then also
yeah.
the amount of sugars like in the in cereals and stuff like that. And it's I've got a 7-year-old who loves to eat Fruit Loops, and he loves to
Oh
eat
yeah.
cereal in the morning, but it's really just not. I'm setting him up. We're not setting him up for success, because it's like you need to be able to. He's getting that such an insulin spike in the morning, that glucose spike, and then it's you're setting him up to crash in the afternoon, and it's also setting him
That's
up.
one thing Jess had said about cutting, like, one of the women that I work with asked about how do I get rid of those cravings at like 7 or 8 at night? And Jess says it starts with what you eat first.
Yeah,
And if you're having cereals and things like that that are highly sugar, high
and she said
processed.
like having the carbs in the morning, like the simple carbs. It's like
Yeah.
trying to get a form of protein in there in the morning, and really trying to um kind of stabilize that throughout the day. And but also for people with kids, if you need to try to set them up with healthy habits for the rest of their lives. And it's really something we're trying to instill with Keegs, is like the healthy eating, making sure, it's okay to have these things sometimes, but to make him aware of the patterns and in like, again, things that I didn't learn until I was in college. And even then it was hard to kind of work into my routine and my ritual, right? And it's hard even now I struggle with it, and it's something I've struggled with most of my adult life. And it's
There's a
hard to break
convenience
that pattern.
factor to it too. Like you have to kind of plan ahead if you're going to eat well, and there are times where you don't have much time. So, like Emily had with the fuel bag, or if you can just make sure you have a few go-to things that'll tide you over if you need them. I'm sorry, like a peanut butter banana wrap, like that sounds fantastic. I could get on
Yeah.
board with that pretty easily.
Oh, the honey too, right? She had honey in there
Yes, the
too, I
honey in
think,
there
right?
as well. You had mentioned Fruit Loops. I think this is it. I was trying to download a video while you were saying I'm still learning this software. But there are these two British guys that try foods that are banned in the UK, and they have them in America, and then they try them out and see what it is. So let me play this. And they did a couple. I don't know if this is the Fruit Loop one, but hold on, these guys are pretty funny. Although I will say, I reached out to a couple people from England, and I'm like, "Is this true?" And they're like, "Oh no, we have Mountain Dew, we have Fruit Loops." But I don't know.
Today, we're doing something illegal. We are going to try foods in America that are banned in the UK and Europe.
Food number one.
Fruit Loops. I've never tried these.
They've spelled
You
fruit
see this?
wrong.
Yeah.
Apparently, the food colouring in these are illegal and cause nerve cell damage.
That's mental. Oh! Oh, it does smell good. Would you like some nerve cell damage?
I would love some.
No problem. Coming right up. Who's this guy in the front? What's that? A little penguin on the front of the box.
Let's have a look at them dry first. Wow. It's like, Have you smelt them?
Pure chemicals.
That is E numbers.
Yeah, love it. I'm bouncing off the walls. Let's get some milk in.
Forget Red Bull. Fruit Loops.
Yeah. Fruit Loops for the first time. Here we go.
Let us know if you're a Fruit Loop fan. Right, here we go.
If you can't see the
Forget
video, they're
Skittles, I can
eating
taste
a
the
Fruit
rainbow.
Loops and
Yeah, I
love
can
it.
almost feel my insides rotting.
Very sweet. I feel fine though. I don't.
Bring Fruit Loops to the UK. Do you like Fruit Loops? Jace doesn't by the sounds of it. We are going to be doing a series of this showing you guys foods that are available in America but banned in the UK and Europe.
Thanks to the FDA.
Cheers, FDA.
Right.
Well, and I think the other piece to that is
Could you see that? Did it play?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but the other thing too is like maybe they have it, but this is where you put two labels side by side, and like
That's true. That's true.
what's the difference? Because that's a lot of what it is, right? And it's not necessarily that they might have the same product, but it might not be
Made the same way.
yeah. Well, and this is a big thing that RFK is pushing right now. I don't know if you've seen some of his stuff about the
I have not.
beef tallow, like how, I think it was in the early 90s that McDonald's switched from using beef taro to like some sort of seed oils to cook their food in, and that's where you've seen this spike and again, these are just things that over time it's become more acceptable for them to make these changes, and it's subtle changes that consumers don't really even notice, and we've seen a real spike in autoimmune disorders and
Cancers, I saw it are up like 40% in young people since the 70s, and they don't know exactly why, but they feel a lot of it has to do with the nutrition, the environment, more gas-powered vehicles, more sedentary lifestyle, things like that. So they're not getting exercise, the food isn't as clean, and the air they're breathing and everything like that is leading to more of these cancer cases, which is awful, Oh, there was another thing I had read. This is a little random, I know, but it was about sleep, and we were talking about, obviously the importance of that. The Harvard Business Review did a study where they made a correlation between how many hours straight you've been awake and what the equivalent blood alcohol content would be. Cognitively, your reaction time, things like that. And if you're up for 17 straight hours, it's the same thing as having a 0.05 blood alcohol level. And then if you're up for 20 straight hours, it's 0.1, which is over the legal limit. So if you're putting in 20, 24-hour shifts, and then you're driving home, your reaction time is not what it needs to be. So another thing with rest and recovery that's super important, which is completely unrelated to anything we are just talking about, but it just popped into my head that I don't know, all this, the amount of stuff that I feel like I have been on a deep dive in, where I feel like in the past you get sucked into these, reels or whatever, and they're mindless. And I feel like lately I've just been going down these rabbit holes of different nutrition things. And there's one guy that will go through the labels on all the protein bars and things like that, and how it might not be labeled as sugar, but the way the body reacts to it's the same effects as sugar.
Yes.
And some of them, he's like, it's better to have a candy bar than it is to have this protein bar, because the protein in it's like the cheapest kind there is, and all the fake stuff in it. So he's like, it's better to just have chocolate and sugar and call it a day, and hey, go from there. I don't know.
And just simplify it, right? And just making sure that, because again, like stuff we've talked about where it's everything, there's so much misinformation, and not necessarily misinformation, but there's such an abundance of information too, where it's like, it's hard to filter through what's right and what's wrong. And, it feels like everything's bad for you nowadays. And it's like, just simplify it. Just make sure that you're getting natural ingredients. That's where you should start with, your macro level stuff, proteins, healthy fats and carbohydrates, and then make sure that you're getting natural ingredients, fruits, vegetables, and proteins like that, where you're getting your, whether animal proteins or whatever your diet's like, whether it's, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan or something like that, just make sure that you're checking all the boxes of just the simple stuff, the stuff that you can control, and then build off of there, because it feels like, I think when you're so far gone, or you're so far, away from where you should be or where you want to be, it's hard to climb that mountain. And I think it's just take it one step at a time, one small change at a time, and over time you're gonna see and develop a plan for yourself, and really try to put it together, and set goals. We've talked about that before. Set a smart goal for yourself, and then set sub goals to get to that bigger goal. you should have a long-term goal and short-term goals that are going to lead you there. And you know, it makes it easier, and it makes it seem like it's not as heavy heavy of a lift as it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we've said in the past, like, this is the things that are causing all the issues, or not all of them, but most of them are things we have control over. You can choose the food that you eat. You can choose to walk more. You can choose to try and get more sleep. I mean, everybody's work schedule can be different, life schedule, but you're given certain constraints, and you know what you need to do to work around those constraints, and you do the best job you can with it. And it takes more effort, but if you want to be successful at anything, you have to put more effort into it. And it's not crazy. I feel like for me, I know my ritual, I won't say the word routine, like my morning rituals and stuff have gotten to the point where I don't really have to think about it anymore, but I know I'm going to get time at the gym. I know I'm going to eat a clean breakfast, whether it's eggs, or a smoothie with fruit, protein, and a couple other things in there. Like I know I've got that piece down. So if the day throws something different at me, I can at least adjust. But the foundation of my day starts off in the right way, and I think that definitely helps.
Yeah, and having that foundation makes it easier to adapt to those curveballs, you know, and that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're about 45 minutes in. Is there anything else you wanna hit the fans with?
No, you know, I think the biggest thing is, you know, if you stayed with us this long, I appreciate you guys kind of tuning in and making sure, you know, and keep us accountable. If you got feedback, or positive or negative, let us know. You know, if there's things that you want us to talk about, or topics that you think we should cover, or you know, issues with things that we've said. Like, that's, you know, we're human. But also at the same time, like, we need to be, you know, I like to be held accountable. I like to be engaged in positive discussion, and making sure that we're always moving forward and moving in the right direction. So I think that's a big factor for me, in it's a big reason why I agreed to kind of embark on this journey with you. Is like, it's something that it holds me accountable. It gives me some motivation on my end, and you know, it gives me something to look forward to, in a way to talk to you at least once a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's nice because it allows, I think our beliefs are on the right track, in terms of the four major things we talk about, but there's also so much more we can still learn from other people and from each other, and the willingness to have open conversations, even if you disagree on something, but to, explain your side and go in with an open mind, I think is huge.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you to everybody who's taken the time. I know there are a couple people out there that religiously listen to all the episodes.
Matty P.
Matty P. Nick's always there. My buddy Brandon. I know my mama always listens to one. She uses the YouTube, as she says, to pull that up. But I know there are a couple other people too. Jeannie's out there. Oh, I did want to say one thing. One woman at the gym who was listening, she tried to call me out on, I had said we're in 10 countries and like 100 and something cities. And she's like, that's not true. I'm like, it is 100% true. So I just want to show the screen of my phone that shows all time how many countries we are in and how many cities. I don't know if I can't zoom in on that. Hold on. Let me pull to the main thing. I'm dropping the ball here big time. But it says 11 total countries. And I'm going to zoom in on that right there. If it ever, it's backwards, but you can see 11 total countries.
Now I can see it. We can see it.
Oh, all right. And then total cities, we were at 173 as it comes through right there. Philadelphia's in 5th place. We're Massachusetts guys, so I feel like most of
Leominster,
our family
Leominster's big in there. Leominster's the number 2 city.
Yeah, I know. Boston, Hudson's Matt and Nick for sure. But then in 6 is Tucson, Arizona. So we're going across the country. So thank you to everybody, because we know time is the most valuable thing that you have, and the fact that you share it with us each week, it does mean a lot to us. So thank you all. If you need any help, head over to the healthmovement.us website. You can connect with us there easily. It has all the episodes. The YouTube channel link is on there as well. It's got the guests that we've had on there. We're gonna get more guests on there. Don't worry, you don't have to listen to just the two of us every episode. But we thought we'd do, as Tim said, a State of the Union speech to kind of get us going.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.